Hello gorgeous peeps and welcome to another mesmerising episode of TechSpert Weekly. It's tech news, Jim, but not as we know it. Yes, that is a Star Trek reference from about 6 decades ago, and yes, that does mean I have once again completely failed to plan any kind of intro for this show. So let's just get it over with, shall we? Precisely what your mum said to me last night, by the way. TechSpert Weekly! So recently we took a peek under Google's tech petticoat and had a good long perv at the upcoming Pixel 6a blower, which should hopefully launch at Google I/O in just a couple of weeks. And one more fresh bit of kit we'll hopefully get to clap eyes on at I/O is the first ever Pixel branded smartwatch, which is already leaked to buggery under the pseudonym of Pixel Rohan. What actually is a Rohan? Well, it's an outdoor clothing store in Kingston, as well as a kingdom in the Lord of the Rings books whose name means Land of the Horse Lords, apparently. That's because a lot of people there like to somewhat predictably twat about on horses. Cheers, Google. So what does this codename tell us about the Pixel Watch? Well, maybe it's got some sort of built-in equine features to help keep your polo game tight, or maybe someone at Google is just a massive Lord of the Rings geek. But what we do know so far is that it will run Google's latest Wear OS, which I've already piddled about with on the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4. Except this time we'll have the proper Google Assistant and Google Pay services rather than Sammy's own versions. Samsung and Google actually co-created the new version of Wear OS, and it's proper decent as well, even if some of the features like the random hand gesture recognition stuff feel like early implementations at best and also make you feel like a bit of a prize prick when you're using them out and about in public. That round OLED touchscreen is beautifully bezel-less, that's surprisingly hard to say, with a single crown over on the right edge. It's a simple, but it's a pretty slick design. And all of that hot internet leak chat suggests that the Google Pixel Watch will be powered by the same 5nm chipset as the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 and Watch 4 Classic, so you can expect the same not particularly fantastic battery life, maybe a day or two at best between charges. And as Google now owns Fitbit, you can bet your bollocks/lady bits that the Pixel Watch will feature some Fitbit exercise type features for anyone who does stuff like running for fun. Sick f***s. And while we're expecting to get at least a proper glimpse of the Google Pixel Rohan whatever the f*** watch at Google I/O in a couple of weeks time, don't expect it to actually hit your wrists until around September time, at least if leaky blokes like John Prosser have it right. So moving on, and this week was also a big one for Meta Quest VR headset fans. First up, Meta announced an update to its hand tracking smart, so you can do stuff like clap and see your hands clapping without bothering to take your headset off, or do whatever this right here is supposed to be. Personally, gotta say, couldn't really give any proper shits until they finally figure out a way for me to endlessly slap Mark Zuckerberg's eminently smackable face. I swear I will not stop pounding that smug and yet strangely haunted visage of his until each of my fingers drop off, or my erection grows so out of control that it drains all of the blood from the rest of my body and I collapse on my living room floor dead but fully gratified. As well as various hand-based shenanigans, we also had the massive Meta Quest Gaming Showcase, revealing some hot new VR experiences coming to your facial region later this year. Games they showed off include Moss 2, a sequel to Moss 1, which once again puts you in control of a wee mouse thing as she solves puzzles and merrily murders other tiny animals. Here's hoping the second one has you causing mischief in a big old house while Lee Evans guns furiously and tries to twat you with a broomstick. We also saw Red Matter 2, the follow-up to one of my favourite VR adventure games, as well as Walking Dead Saints and Sinners 2, which once again has you awkwardly jabbing virtual sharp implements into the virtual faces of virtual zombies, while in real life you're in fact emptying your actual bowels into your actual pants and most likely accidentally punching one of your family members right in the throat. Next up came Aspire 2. That's another sequel then, this time a sneaky espionage jobby. And then there was Bone Lab, follow-up to Boneworks, in case you wanted more of that hot action as well. But you know, if you actually fancy an original title rather than just a straight-up sequel, well, there is always Ghostbusters VR, which allows you to hunt spooks in the dark with your mates, just in case Walking Dead hasn't already completely cleared you out. Looks pretty promising so far with all the movie gadgets present and correct. Definitely a less horrific way to get virtually slimed compared with that time I watched a Pornhub VR video from the woman's perspective. Just like to point out as well, that was a complete accident, 100%. It was certainly very eye-opening, shall we say, although ironically opening your eyes is the last thing you want to do when you've got a jet stream like that headed your way. And anyway, that looks about all the sort of the decent tech news this week. Sony could bring ads to PS5 games. I mean, surely there's so much sponsored content in that anyway that they already basically have. The first full-screen iPhone may be just 2 years away, just 2 more years of ridiculously oversized notches, iPhone fans, huzzah. So anyway, that was that, whatever that was, and now it's time for the part of the show that's about as welcome as a large angry horned bovine in a store selling fragile porcelain tableware. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments. Not really sure why I sang viewer comments just then, because I've already got the jingle, so basically double jingled it. Value for money, kiddies. First comment this week comes from Dark. Hey Dark says, next time try your opening greetings in different languages to make it more precise and perfect. I would love to, mate, but unfortunately I'm from Sunderland, which means I can speak English just about kind of badly, and after a few pre-show drinks I can barely even do that, as you can all clearly tell. Of course, thanks to the wonders of technology and the internet, we no longer need to know stuff, so good old Google Translate will bring that award-winning intro to you in a variety of languages now. First up, German.
It's tech news, Jim, but not as we know it.
Oh wait, no, that was the English. Sorry, I pressed the wrong thing. F***ing gadgets expert here.
Es sind Tech News, Jim, aber nicht so, wie wir sie kennen.
Next up, a bit of Swedish.
Det är tekniska nyheter, Jim, men inte som vi känner till det.
I mean, that was just a noise. Now let's have some Hungarian.
Ez műszaki hír, Jim, de nem úgy, ahogy mi ismerjük.
God, she sounds absolutely plastered. Well, that's enough of that bollocks. Anyway, so there you go, the Techspert intro in various languages for your viewing pleasure. That's not the right word, is it? Next up, Quality MW says, greetings from Malawi, Uncle Tech. Greetings, my Malawian chum. Hope all is good in your corner of the world. Mark says, 40, I thought you were in your 50s. Now, none of that, alright? Just because I'm quite clearly wise beyond my years doesn't mean I should have to put up with this kind of casual abuse on the internet, alright? So just lay it off, otherwise we're all just going to sit here in silence and you can think about what you've done. Actually, that's a bloody good idea. Why didn't I think of that one earlier? Easy way to stretch this thing to a full 15 minutes. Right, next up, and I will apologise in advance because I'm going to completely f*** up the pronunciation of this. Egidius Pucus says, I watched like 10 shows and it's the first time I'm doing it drunk and it's better than ever. Always said, man, there are few things on this planet that can't be improved with a skinful of lovely booze, and that goes double for my patter. Next up, Tino says, would have loved to have a sesh with Chris back in the day, but these days I get a feeling a bump would leave him in hospital. By a bump, I take it you mean more than a couple of drinks, basically. And yeah, I mean, the word lightweight doesn't even begin to cover it. Frankly, well gone are the days where I could down a dozen Smirnoff Ices out in the town and still be perfectly capable of legging it away from dodgy Dave's kebab van fast enough before I paid for my kofta and chips. Whereas these days I'd probably stumble over vomiting after about 10 steps and then good old Dave would turn me into his next Donna. And next up it's War Irish chum Donald, who says, as a fellow stubby-fingered bastard, could you give me a steer as to which is best between the Zenfone 8, the S22 and the Xiaomi 12? Ugh, bollocks. I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit longer before somebody asked me a genuine tech question. I'm yet to test the regular Samsung Galaxy S22. As always, I would say try and grab the Snapdragon model if you can, because it seems to be better than the Exynos as usual. I do worry about the battery life on that thing because it is very compact. The battery is quite small on it. That was the same problem that the Zenfone had, crap battery life basically. So if you want something that you're not going to have to charge twice a day, then the Xiaomi 12 definitely the way forward. Great little blower. And next up, Dasol says, either the Vivo X Fold or the Vivo X Note is the option for that guy who wanted a 7-inch phone. Vivo for those who like a large one. I mean, that should just be their tagline, really. Vivo, hit me up, man, we'll do a deal. George says, OnePlus went from unique and outstanding phones like the 6T McLaren edition, that was very sweet indeed. I did like those McLaren crossovers they did, and the 7 Pro and the 7T Pro, to the likes of the 9 and the 10 Pro, which are just underwhelming. I'm sticking to my 7T Pro, need something exciting to make me change phones. To which Adesh rather pertinently replied, they settled. Yeah, unfortunately, gotta say, I agree. Like, the OnePlus 10 Pro was perfectly fine, you know. It was kind of like the smartphone equivalent of a spam sandwich, say, you know, acceptable while you're eating it, no complaints at all. But then afterwards, you just feel a little bit underwhelmed and kind of wish you'd went with the fish fingers instead. Anyway, that was far too much talk about tech, so now it's time for some obligatory anime chat instead. Jay Wright says, with your limited time as a new season of anime begins, what are you looking forward to watching? Spy, X Family or Spy Times Family, I got no idea how to actually see it, is really popular. Yeah, that looks like a good one. Definitely I'd be tempted by that one. But the thing is, I've got loads of stuff still on my Crunchyroll queue, completely untouched. Things like Wonder Egg Priority and Odd Taxi and stuff like that. So I need to actually smash through those before I even think about the new stuff. One of the big ones I'm definitely looking forward to is the Chainsaw Man adaptation. Looking forward to checking that one out. Should be absolutely mental. Oh, and of course, Trapped in a Dating Sim as well, I think it's called, which is where the protagonist, perhaps unsurprisingly, finds himself trapped in a dating sim. I am, of course, fully expecting the usual hilariously awkward scenes where he stumbles over onto each girl in turn and accidentally fumbles with their chest for a full half a minute or so before he somehow realizes what's going on and his entire face just explodes in a geyser of blood. Ah, Japan. Just never change. Next up, Jed Bullet. Hello, Jed. Says, hello from sunny Cape Verde and happy Easter, you rascal. I'm enjoying numerous cocktails and inventing new ones for the staff. Gotta love all-inclusive holidays. Yeah, do love a bit of all-inclusive, certainly. They cater magnificently to that British mentality of going off abroad on your holidays and spending pretty much all of it so off your face that you can't actually remember a single thing when you get back. And in fact, the only evidence you've even been abroad is your deep sunburn and the fact you've got no money left. Next up, John Kerr says, when will you do an episode from a swim-up bar in Mexico? And the answer to that, my friend, is basically as soon as I learn how to business expense that shit, then every single episode of Techspert Weekly will be taking place in a bar of some description, preferably of the swim-up variety. The moister, the better. Next up, it's Eye in the Sky, who says, hello from the Cayman Islands. Ah, accounting for the Tory party, eh? He continues, if you had to choose between the Samsung Galaxy S22, the regular sized one, or the Google Pixel 6 or the 6 Pro, which would you choose? I use my phone for lots of mindless scrolling, streaming sports, flying my drone, and of course taking photos and video. Well, as I mentioned before, I haven't tested out the regular Samsung S22 yet, but hopefully soon. Between the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, personally, I lean more towards the regular Pixel 6 just because it's more compact and I prefer that in a smartphone. It kind of depends though if you do take a lot of photos and video, whether you want that telephoto lens or not, because then you'll have to upgrade to the Pro. And my memory could be completely lying to me right now, but I believe I did a side-by-side with the Pixel 6 and the Pro model when they first launched as well, so maybe check that out if you want a full comparison. Well, time is a-ticking, so better make these the last couple of comments. J Health says, hopefully Vivo will come out with a global version of the X Fold. It's the first foldable phone I'm actually interested in buying. Alternatively, Flamin' Hedgehog says, folding phones are the answer to a question that nobody asked. Yeah, I gotta say, the geeky part of me loves the ridiculous tech, the sheer complexity that goes into the hinges and the folding screens and everything. And then the practical part of me says, what is the bloody point in any of this other than to, you know, show off down the pub if you're absolutely minted. And finally, Kelvin Zoe says, please, for the love of God, let your kids do a jingle for you.
This is about next week.
So what is next week? Well, it looks like it's quite a busy one actually. So we've got a Poco launch on Tuesday, something Motorola related on Wednesday, Making Love with Craig David on Thursday, and then more Techspert Weekly on Friday. So an absolutely action-packed extravaganza. So please do join me for all of that shenanigans, what I just said, apart from the Craig David thing. That was just me being stupid. Not really sure YouTube would allow that kind of content anyway. Massive thanks to everyone who commented last week. Fantastic going through all those as usual. Please do slam your comments down below. We'll try and get our way through as many of those as possible next week. And yeah, have yourselves a bloody lovely weekend. Plug, subscribe and ding the notifications bell. Can't miss that out. And yeah, that's about it. Cheers everyone. Love you.